This is Hulk Annual 16. This is the one I promised I would review, where Hulk fights Nemesis off of Resident Evil number 3. I reviewed that one where Silver Surfman fought Nemesis, and that was actually the end of the story. This comes just before that part. We have got Hulk fighting Nemesis. Stars, that is his catchphrase. I said I would look at this, and then I looked at it and I realised I actually didn't like this story at all. This is written by David Peter. He was the writer of the Hulk for the better part of a decade. I think him and Marky Mark, when it comes to like long runs, David Peter on Hulk and Marky Mark on Captain America, they're like the two big ones. They were roughly at the same time too. So here we have David Peter's trick that he uses loads, which is having characters having like a therapy session of sorts to impart their motivation and their personality to the reader. In this case, this is a man who wound up as Nemesis, and he is filling us in on his backstory and how stuff happened to him. And the whole story is actually a flashback told by him, and it makes no sense that he would have any knowledge of this opening scene, but it's a funny scene with the Hulk and the army. Hulk sees them and gets angry and starts destroying their jeep, but the thing was, the army weren't even looking for him. They were just doing routine manoeuvres, and Hulk, he just assumed they were chasing him. The other thing this annual does is it brings back David Peter's character Duffy. Remember her from that video from a few days ago? She is back and not in pog form. It's almost like I only reviewed that original comic to set this one up. And while I actually had a lot of enthusiasm for that story, I thought it had a point, and despite its faults, it really excelled at some stuff. I think this is terrible, and the use of Duffy here is wasted. If you didn't see that other review, Duffy, she is an alien that gangs around Earth and kills people who want to kill themselves. And it does really make sense to bring her into this story. As Nemesis, he obviously wants to kill himself. But what is shit is, within the first 2 pages of her appearance, Duffy is lectured by a homeless woman about how people sometimes, they think extremes, but they didn't mean it, or that they might be having mood swings, and that stuff like that can pass. So now, Duffy completely changes her agenda, and she decides she wants to help people get over the idea of suicide. And this is just too flippant a change. She just changes her whole thing straight away, and if anything, why didn't David Banner rejecting her help not prove the inciting incident to bring about a realisation like this? Why is she swayed so quickly and easily by a random homeless woman? There is Dairy Devil, because he had just fought Nemesis in his annual. I didn't have it, so no, I won't be able to review it, even if I wanted to. Here we have got a goofy part where Hulk, he ends up in an abandoned theatre, and he takes a bow. This, it could be David Peter's response to me saying that he could take a bow after the bit where he wrote a good David Banner bit in the other issue. So here is Nemesis, and we get his backstory, how his father was a corrupt senator and a lunatic. He was like a survivalist nut, and he made his children like train and prepare for the end of the world. And then we see how the son, how he got infected with the T virus, I think. And it mutated him into Nemesis. There he is there. And then Duffy shows up because Nemesis is wanting to kill himself. But now Duffy, she refuses to kill him because he might not really mean it, or he might just be having a bad day. So she decides to take Nemesis to meet Hulk. And they are meant to bond because they are both monsters, and I hate this. I think it's done so poorly, and it barely even delivers on the Hulk fighting Nemesis idea that I think everyone wants to see. There is a subplot with Brad Vickers and how he got bitten by an infected monkey at the Umbrella Man Corporation. And then Duffy, she splits Hulk and David Banner into separate beings so they can debate whether or not Nemesis should want to kill himself. And this is just shit. It's just some more of David Peter doing his Hulk v Banner stuff, except it seems arbitrary here. There's a more interesting thing going on with Nemesis or parallels between him and Hulk, but instead we're doing the same old tired Hulk versus Banner thing. But we briefly get to see Hulk fight Nemesis, and that is good for the 2 pages that happens. Then we get to see David Banner fighting Nemesis, which is something I can honestly say I would not feel like I was missing if it never happened. And David Banner, he dies, and what will this mean for the Hulk now that his human alter ego has died? Well, it doesn't fucking matter, because it was never David Banner anyway. It was just Duffy pretending to be David Banner. So it was a complete waste of time. There is a pin-up of the Hulk. I think this is a wasted opportunity. You have a big body or a monster thing like Nemesis, so just give us a big dumb fight. Any parallels to draw between Hulk and Nemesis, they would work better if you weren't pulling attention away from Nemesis to indulge in Hulk arguing with what's not even the real David Banner. And Duffy and her change in personality, it didn't really bring anything to the issue other than getting the Hulk and Nemesis in the same room. I didn't recommend this. 7 thumbs up.